So, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Vibe to the show. Welcome, Stephen Schwartz.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here. And, we've been trying to connect for the last couple of weeks. And here we are.
I know. Well, it's hard to keep up with you. I can't keep track of where you are. You live in Tulum now. You used to live near me in San Diego and up in Venice Beach. And Colorado. But anyway, it's amazing to connect. And, I told you that it was some kind of an alert on my phone that said vibrational. It caught my eye one day. I click on it. It was the Spiritual Boss Babe episode. And I'm like, oh, I got to listen to that. So I'm listening. I go, oh my gosh, you just spoke to me. I'm like, I got to get him on the show and share your magic with everybody. But I love going down rabbit holes. And yours was like, I couldn't stop. So
I got to make a rabbit hole to go down for sure.
You do. Absolutely. But, you have so much, I was trying to think like, I really want everyone to understand your story because I'm all about intuition and, picking the breadcrumbs up and taking action and asking the universe and watching it deliver. And you have so many amazing stories that prove that's how it works. And then I want to go into all that you're doing today and, it'll all unfold perfectly. But thank you for being here and sharing this, a beautiful life story that you've had created intentionally.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think one of the biggest things that I've been reflecting on being down in Tulum, and I do live in Tulum. I've been there for about a year and a half. And prior to that, I was living in Venice Beach, California, which I was very happy. But literally COVID happened and I was living right on the beach. And I was just like, my intuition was like, get out of here, Actually, I think that's an interesting place to get started because I have an interesting, when you talk about my family history, there's, I don't think I've ever told the story on a podcast. And I love doing podcasts, by the way. I love being invited onto other people's podcasts. And I always think I have the same stories, but they're all different. There's all different angles and different rabbit holes to go down. But I've never shared this on a podcast before. I remember my grandmother, who has passed. She's transitioned to another dimension many, many years ago. But I remember my mother did an interview with my grandmother, and she told a story about when she was a little girl growing up in Warsaw, Poland during like World War II. Before World War II, I guess it was my great uncle had this intuition. He was like, we got to get out of here. Like something bad's going to happen. And everybody was like, oh, you're overreacting. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And I believe it was like my great uncle, my great grandfather and my grandmother, who was a little girl at the time. And I guess my grandmother, they got out of there. They left Warsaw, Poland. And if I remember the story correctly, it was something crazy. Like there was two boats and they were coming to the United States, and last minute they shifted boats. They changed boats. One had all the records and one had people, and they were crossing the Atlantic, and the other boat got torpedoed.
Oh my gosh.
And like went down, and then they landed in New York, and the whole story, immigrants from Poland growing up in the tenements. And then she grew up, my grandmother, and the rest is great history. But it was all about this. I always remember that story about like I think about like my great uncle's intuition. And really all this, they always say this, hiding in plain sight, or all the signs are always there. I was just talking to, actually I had lunch with my lawyer this like a couple of days ago. I'm doing the Southern California tour, and I was meeting with my lawyer, and we were talking about the real estate crash of between 2007, 2009.
Right.
And he was telling me, he goes, this is what he said. He goes, all the signs were there. But nobody was choosing to see them until it happened, and boom. So all the signs are always there. People just choose not to see them. And the ones that are paying attention are the ones that can make millions of dollars. They're the ones that are going to be safe. They're the ones that are going to make alternate decisions. The people that just want to, keep their blinders on and kind of live in whatever space they do, then they become like, oh my God, I never saw this coming, because you weren't paying attention.
Right. But why do you think that these people are out there? Like, what's the trick? What's the key?
Wait, what people are out there? Which people? The people paying
That
attention?
don't listen, that don't follow it, that just keep the blinders on. What are the difference between the people that are like open and, what's in
Yeah.
their vibration?
Well, I think that everybody is innately programmed to tap into to their intuition. And in fact, we're recording this in an Airbnb. Just as we started, I was like, oh man, I left a copy of my book in my bag. So I don't have a copy of my book, or normally I'd be showing it right now.
Yes.
My book is called Primal Resonance, Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. And in that book, my favorite chapter, and it's the last chapter, and it's following your intuition. And really, it talks about being able to tap into this. We talk about the FM radio versus the AM radio. Mm-hmm. And FM radio is all the noise. It's the big knobs. It's, moving from here to here, and you hear it. It's super clear. It's super loud. It's usually what most people are paying attention to. But then you have the AM radio, which is a lot more subtle.
Right.
It kind of moves in and out, much more simpler. But really, that's your intuition, is the AM radio. And if you can really get dialed in on that, it's never going to fail you. And so when you think about like the people, like, okay, I'm walking down here, I'm in downtown LA. Like I'm in like basically as center to LA as you can get. Like there's all the theaters around here. There's like, cannabis places, there's parking garages. I was just, I parked and they gave me the wrong address. So I had like an 8-minute walk, maybe like 2 blocks around the corner. And there was a lot that I witnessed in these 2 blocks.
Right.
Like I remember walking by this barber shop, and it was playing all this hip hop, and it was packed. They had like, everybody's in there hanging out, getting their hair done up. What is it? Friday night? Everybody's getting ready to go out, all the glitz and glamour with all the marquee signs for whatever event's going on. People are going to the dispensary. They're running a special, I think 2 for $25 joints or something. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of energy going on, Right. And everybody's doing something. But are they really paying attention to like what's going on beyond like what's in their immediate field? And I think what's happening in this new earth is we are all being, whether we like it or not, we're all being raised. The planetary energy is being raised. And just as things go higher, just by pressure, more dense things fall down.
Right.
So and we can't avoid it. So even the biggest psychics in the world, even the most gifted healers in the world, all the people that, that are doing all these, super awesome things, we are all being asked this time to ascend. And as I was driving over here, I stayed with one of my dear friends in San Pedro the last 2 nights, and her daughter she's a YouTube star.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and she's amazing. And so she's like, hey, I want to help you do something with your YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my YouTube channel, Bioharmonic Technologies in YouTube, and subscribe. But anyhow, I was talking with her about my YouTube and this and that. I said, we're all going through the same thing. And she's like, really? How so? And I just said to myself, we're all being asked to ascend. And I felt like that was like the most common denominator. Right. Like the planet is all asking us, the situation is being for us to rise up. And so here's the people, I don't know anybody about who's getting the haircuts or who's buying weed. I don't know anything about any of these people. But I can promise you that if I had a conversation with them, they're all going through stuff right now. Right. Even if their life is fantastic or not, people are going through, what are they doing for their work? What are they doing with their families? What are they doing with their relationships? All these things of what's their financial situations, or things collapsing. I mean, I've been dealing with this like PayPal thing for like the last week or so. Before I left Tulum, there's a lot of people that are living off of crypto. There was like two major crypto, and we all know about the market crashing, but there was a couple other like smaller projects that a lot of people were like living on down there, both completely like rug pulled, collapsed.
Wow.
And people, so there was all these kind of things that people are experiencing in their lives that are being brought up to be looked at.
But why? Like when you say new earth,
Yeah. Okay.
talk about that. What is the new earth? Why are we all rising up?
I mean, have you heard about the new earth?
Yes,
Is that
but I want to hear your take. I've talked about that a lot on this podcast.
okay?
And I know like we're all transcending, we're moving to the next dimension. And,
Yeah.
we're all, this 2020 thing just kind of started the shift, and, we all feel it. I mean, in my life, it's, what you're talking about. Yeah. But I live this life where it's like, I always am out looking for the magic, always.
Yeah.
Like I'll find it. It's a family thing. Like we're always looking for magic moments, but it's become a muscle, and we just do that automatically. But when I see like the people on the street, and you're telling me, yeah, we're all going that in our own way. But tell me your thing on the new earth.
Yeah, the new earth. Well, so I talk about this actually in my book as well, in the intuition chapters. How do you do an exercise for improving your relationship with your intuition? And how many times, before I get into the new earth, how many times you think something and you do something else, and then you do and you're like, I knew it. I knew I was supposed to do. And it's stupid because everybody here listening is like, oh yeah, we all do that. Exactly. You're in violation with your intuition.
Right.
Instead of, what if you actually like listen to it? And one of the things that happened in the new earth for me, that one of my new doctrines that shouldn't be a new doctrine, but it's something that I've been committed to, is my intuition is super strong. Like it's the number one thing really in my entire life that my whole life depends on me being able to trust and follow my intuition. My journey has been me not doing that,
totally.
to doing that. So as I've been going through this, I've been saying, how do you trust your intuition? You have to just continue to follow it. And then as you more and more follow it, the more you create, like you said, a muscle. It becomes like a muscle that you get to, it's trained to where like, that's my intuition is. So one of the things that comes to me is I might get an intuition of a no, like not to do something, or an intuition to go here, not there. And usually somebody is asking me, it usually has to do with somebody. And then they'll say to me, why? And in the past, I would not know why. And then they'd kind of push me like, oh, why? And then I didn't have an answer. And I was like, well, I don't want to make them feel bad. So I'd say, okay, you're right. And then collapse, something shitty happened. And I'm like, see, like I knew it. So my new answer when people say why is because my intuition tells me so.
Oh,
that's why.
Right. I love
and that's good enough.
Right. Totally good enough.
Yeah, it's better than good enough. So, okay, I might not be able to give you like the ABC, I don't know why, but my intuition knows why, and I'm getting a no, and I'm going with that no, and I'm holding that no.
Right.
And so whoever this person is having a challenge with it, that's on them.
Right.
And then they might say, oh, Dr. Schwartz, you're eccentric, or, you're hard to work with. Well, no, I'm actually super, this is the way we want to do it. This is how I've set up doctrines for my life. And what I really want to teach people is how they need to have doctrines in their lives. So getting back to your question is, what's my take on the new earth?
Yeah. What is that?
Have you heard of Elizabeth April?
No.
She's a mega YouTube. So this is the theme of our podcast about YouTube. She's a mega YouTube star, and I never even heard of her before, but literally within the first, I think, week when the world was shutting down, March 2020, and everybody was freaking out, somebody shared a transmission. She's a channeler.
Okay.
and she did a transmission. I think it probably is the most famous transmission that she's ever done. I think it's really the one, I believe, that really put her on the map. And she literally described what was basically, she channels the Galactic Federation. Have you heard of the Galactic Federation?
No, a new
Never heard
one.
of it. So the Galactic Federation, we're going full woo-woo. Okay,
Good,
we're
I
going
love
full
it.
woo-woo, super rabbit hole. Okay, this may be one of the most ultimate rabbit holes. The Galactic Federation. Okay, so this is where your viewers are either going to be turning off the podcast,
No, they
or they're
won't.
going to be like, tell us more what's happening.
It's tell us more.
But with the Galactic Federation, essentially, is we are not alone in this universe. And there is a federation in the galaxy of overseeing planets that are watching planet Earth and knowing, like, watching what's happening, and is like trying to support us to do whatever is going on. And they're really not allowed to interact, or maybe they do interact. Rabbit hole, Galactic Federation.
Okay.
So she channels the Galactic Federation. So she'll go in and she'll start asking questions, and they'll say, all these things. So anyhow, this was a transmission from the Galactic Federation, and saying that basically, and what she said during that transmission, I had already thought and felt. But I've never heard anybody just so like say it. And I was just like, That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. And so we actually hosted, as a little side note, I spent whatever that was, the 3-month lockdown, like when everything was completely shut down, that first lockdown in March. I moved from Venice Beach into my friend's family home in Marietta, California, total suburbs. Like, I lived with him, his 13-year-old son, his brother, and his mother and his father in their family home.
Oh, wow.
Super crazy. Yeah. And we knew that it was the new Earth. And we're like, what are we going to do what's our new Earth projects that we're going to do during lockdown, since we're not going anywhere?
Right.
And I actually built my app. I took my company, Bioharmonic Technologies, online. And then he launched something called harmonizinghumanity.org, and launched a Harmonizing Humanity live broadcast that we ended up doing. And we're like, who do we want to get? And I said, I would love to get Elizabeth April. And we actually ended up having, I didn't know her, I just saw her on YouTube.
Right.
And as a synchronicity, I ended up at one of my friends' place, who I was reconnected with, who I was at her place, and she said something that she just came from a retreat with Elizabeth April.
Oh my gosh.
I knew her. I said, could you connect me? And she said, yeah, go on. I spoke with her. We had a conversation, and she joined on to Harmonizing Humanity.
Oh, cool. But you didn't tell me, like, so what is?
Tell you, I got completely rabbit hole.
Yeah, you need to get out of that rabbit hole. I want to know what she said that you resonated with so much.
Okay. I thought that was an important segue.
It was, but I'm really dying to know.
Because I think what it comes down to is about synchronicities, when we're living synchronicities. So I would like to, everybody focuses on 2020. I do a lot of work around numerology. I really believe in things that exist in cycle 1 to 9, and like they cycle through. Okay, so as we go through these things, so other aspects that are prophesized, like the end of the Mayan calendar,
right? December
21st, 2012,
right?
So really what that was the end of a 52,000 year cycle. And they said that was the end of the world was going to end. Mm-hmm. It did end. And it was basically a 52,000 year hourglass that ended and got turned over and began pouring little grains of sand through the hourglass. And everybody's like, see that woo-woo stuff? Nothing happened. The world didn't end. It did end. But what happened energetically, it ended. But then you began to shift. Energy doesn't just happen like that. It all exists in waves. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you go from end switch, then you need to build up to this point of critical mass. And so how long does it take in a 52,000 year cycle for that critical mass to start making something that's going to show up in the physical dimensions. And this is another Schwartzism. This is one of my most original, is that we are physical manifestations of our own energetic expressions. I'm going to say that one more time.
Yeah, please do.
We are physical manifestations. We're physical bodies, manifestations of our own energetic expressions, the way our energy expresses ourselves. So we are the physical expression of our energy.
Okay.
So we're energy first, physical second. That's the key. So when boom, we switches over, boom, 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 energetically, energy supersedes physicality. So you're going to see a shift energetically happen before you see a shift physically.
Got it.
So now comes 20, and this ties into another famous chapter, chapter 11 book of eliminating infectious agents.
I read that in your website.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's an amazing chapter. My whole career is based off of eliminating infectious agents, bacteria, viruses, parasites, mold, fungus, yeast, mycoplasma infections using vibrational resonance. And so treating these things, but what I saw with the body, and this is relevant to what we're talking about. So this is not it's a little mini rabbit hole, but basically this is relevant because remember, the planet is an organism.
Right.
I'm an organism. You're an organism. We are all individual. We're all microcosms of the Earth, and the Earth is a microorganism of a galaxy. And it's macro and micro of everything, and it all exists in the same proportions to one another, which is really fascinating. And pathology exists in exactly the same way. Pathology exists in exactly the same way. Meaning, if you're going to get what a fancy term is, dysbiosis, that's an imbalance in gut flora, and that happens when people are toxic, when they have chronic infection, when they have heavy metal toxicity, when they have allergies, when they have physical and emotional trauma. These things shift the ecology of your immune system and of your internal gut. And if you take pharmaceuticals or take drugs, recreational drugs, or drink a lot of alcohol, coffee, soft drinks, all the things, it depletes your gut flora, and it creates what they call a dysbiosis, an imbalance in gut flora, and that's what perpetuates inflammation, and it's what creates candida growth over. So why am I telling you all this? Because what happened in 2020? The planet got infected with COVID. And what's COVID? It was a parasite, an infection. It's a virus. And I talk about this in my book. And what's a virus? And just to this is also very relevant. Because do you know how big a virus is?
No.
Okay.
In big in what way? Like a
size. You know how size. Oh. You know what a measurement of a virus is.
No.
So obviously there's a range, but in general range is 0.0025 to 0.0028 micrometers. What the heck is a micrometer? Yeah, it's tiny. It's basically, so picture like a millimeter.
Right.
It's like a tenth. It could even be a hundredth. My math could be of a millimeter.
Wow.
So it's 0.00 micrometers. Okay, it's tiny. So these things are living inside of a cell, and there's 100 trillion cells inside of our body. Okay.
Right.
100 trillion cells. So picture going into 100 trillionth of this, and then having something 0.00 micrometers inside. When you look at the physics of a cell, there's two kinds of physics. There's something called Newtonian physics, which is like mass, acceleration, gravity. The apple falls on your head. Sir Isaac Newton. It explains the physics of the physical world.
Right.
And then they have quantum physics. Quantum physics explains potentiality and waves and particles and potentialities and dimensions, infinite dimensions. So going back to the cell, the 100 trillion cells, and you're in one of these 100 trillionth of a cell, which makes up our bodies. And now we're in this 0.0025 micrometers. That's not a physical thing. It's an energetic disturbance. It's an energetic vibration, and it's negative. And so what calls that in? Why would there be a life cycle change? Because there's a dysbiosis, there's an imbalance in the ecology of the planet. And this goes back to the new earth. This pulls all back together. When we go from an area of low concentration to high concentration, meaning we go from low vibration to high, and the energy of the whole planet is raising up, and then it suppresses down. This goes back to Elizabeth April. She said that basically there was a point of critical mass where, okay, two worlds are simultaneously existing, and then there's like a separation, which was COVID 2020.
Right.
Separation. Now we have two simultaneous worlds occurring at the same time. And we have this lower dimension that's going to continue to spin down into a deeper, denser 3D, slow, quicksand, war, politics, collapse, these things. And then as that concentrates down, the denser energies are going to stay like down more, and it's going to get pulled down. So it's all going to be, but then it's also, as a shift, is also going to be spinning higher. So people are now free to like, let me out of here. I want to go up. Or now the gravitational pull, as you hit a point of critical mass, it starts pulling people up, whether they like it or not.
So with the people down in the 3D that you're saying spin, what do they have to do to get out of that?
I think they just need to follow, breathe, and let go. Surrender to the flow. Let go.
What if they never do?
Then they have free choice, free will.
And then they go back and do it again. They have to come back and do this dance.
I don't know about that. That's not my. That's for another podcast. That's for another guest. That's not for me to say, and that's not for me to judge. But I would say that what I realized moving down to Tulum is everybody went down there. Everybody was like, not everybody's going to Tulum, but the ones that do, they all feel called there. They all feel like they are being called there to architect the new earth.
Oh, cool.
And there's a lot of people that are hypersensitive, like empaths, right, like myself and my friend that just arrived here to the Airbnb, where we've always been kind of looked at as the outliers. We've always been looked at as the eccentrics. We've been looked at as the weird and wacky. We've been, the ones that don't fit in. And when as after this energetic shift happened for the first time, a lot of people all of a sudden felt like that we could breathe, that we were free, that we were released, and that we can create freely. And that there was a shift from being like, conform to the 3D to we are now the leaders.
Right. Because I think back, you think I listened to your story back in, 2000 when you started this chiropractic journey, and, you kept, taking the steps, and I look at my life back. I was trying to, look at my life in a parallel way to you, like I had babies in 2006 and 2008 when you were like, you had this big shift then, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so that was where my focus went. But before that, because I didn't have my children until I was, 37 and 40. Oh, I was on this path. Like, I did the Joe Dispenzas, all that, I was so into that. And if it was woo woo, it wasn't woo woo enough. I knew there was more. But then when I'm listening to your life, I'm trying to like think of the years that you talk about.
Yeah.
And then I know, at the Mayan calendar, that whole thing, I remember like a lot of people that I've had on the show, 2012 is when I started channeling.
Yeah,
2012 is when I had this awakening. It was like all around that year.
and it was all about, because energetically people started shifting, and that was where the grains of sand starts coming in, and then it hit a point of critical mass where like it's like oil and vinegar,
Mhm.
they set, there comes, it's like surface tension, even like with water, like there comes a point where it just breaks, a
Right.
separation. And that's where we are now. In fact, I was just down in Tulum. I love living down there, but the energy recently has been kind of intense.
Mhm.
And there's like a collective consciousness down there. And sometimes you get really wrapped up.
Oh, really?
and,
Oh, huh.
and well, it's fun. And sometimes like, okay, like I need to get out of here, like it depends on what's going. So I was in a place where I was really like seeking some healing, not just, this was like a week or so ago.
Oh, cool.
And there's amazing people down there. A friend of mine, she works with this biofeedback system, and I went over and she said, "Yeah, please come over. Come over. I'll do a session with you." And we had a really lovely poolside, beautiful biofeedback session. And she went in and did all this work, and we were talking, and I was telling her about what's going on with me, and she said, "You know what? There's an energy band happening right now. There's a band of energy on the planet that's like raising it, that's moving through the planet right now."
Huh.
And I was like, that's what it feels like. And so it doesn't matter like how spiritual you are or how much work you've done, or whatever. It's just happening, and it's all making all of it. It's pulling. It's like sifting all the lower stuff out of us.
Hmm.
And some people are, and there's a lot of people dying. It's like, okay, we're checking out. Like that's our threshold. There's other people that are depressed. There's people that are needing medications. There's people that like, hey, let me just get stoned all the time. And then there's other people like, okay, I want to meditate. Wow, I'm feeling inspired to write a book. I'm going to do an online course. There's all kinds of stuff. Oh, this relationship is ending. Oh, this relationship is starting.
A lot of that. Yeah.
all these things, these relationships with family members and coworkers and all the things. And I think if we can look at it from a place of understanding that this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to ascend. And then it's, what resources do we need to take full ownership of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
If I can make a comment, like my mother, she's pretty much always been a victim. And it's very sad to see, because all I've ever wanted her to do is to step into her power. And she's the physical manifestation of someone that has given away her power her entire life. And I want nothing more but for her to like step into her magic.
Right. But how do you like when you see your mom, and it's just like you want her to see things the way that could really help her, and you're just you want that, but you can't. I mean, I was just with my mom. She lives in Palm Springs, and I watch her, the victim, the news and all the the shootings. I can't go anywhere, and I was like,
Yeah.
Mom, stop.
Yeah.
And I send her podcast for her to maybe a book. But it still goes there because that's this programming and then the older you get, right? So what do you do with your mom? How do you handle that?
In the
Just
new
love?
earth, in the new earth, everybody's got free will. I think all I can really do is just love her.
Right. That's all I do.
And this is her path. This is her path that she's choosing. And we're healing a lot of generational trauma in my family. And I don't know at this time around if that's going to happen with our family. I would love it. It would make me really happy. But however Dr. Vibe is changing people's lives. I love that quote. What do people say? Like, I think Ram Dass, he goes, you'll see, how spiritual you are when you after spending a week with your family.
With your family. Yeah.
Like, that's just the best quote of all time,
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
So,
But no one knows, like when you think of, growing up and you were, we need to go back to your story and this vibration, this bed that you created
mhm.
that is changing lives and healing. But when you have these families that we all come from, we all have our story. But what do you think about, why did you come out? Like, when you were little, like, what, were you always interested in this kind of stuff? Were you like the person that always went to the books or questioned things, and your mom was still there saying, poor me, this life is sad? Or
That's a great question, actually. So I grew up with the very distinct programming that I was stupid, and that I had a learning disability, and that I was bar was set super low for little Stevie. And I had two older sisters, and they were going to college, and then hey, if you go to community college, that's great, but never really. I remember, like, my mom always was trying to get me tested to see if I was, like, for special classes. And I mean, I didn't like school. I wasn't particularly interested in school. I think I was lazy. Never was, there's a lot of things. My grandmother was a famous painter.
oh, cool.
And I never, ever remember my grandmother ever being like, hey, do you want to paint with me? I never recall that. My mother, would play piano. There was piano in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Never sat down, just like, hey, let's play the piano together. I played the saxophone a little bit, but, I was a wrestler. I really enjoyed wrestling. And not until I actually graduated, and it's interesting, because, like, I don't think there was a lot of expectations around me advancing in life all that much. And I do remember those very distinctly. As I was getting ready to graduate high school, my mother, she said, like, what are you going to do with your life? And I just remember saying, I don't know. And she said, well, what do you like to do? And I remember and then she left. And I just remember saying to myself, what do I like to do? And I remember saying, I like to cook. And I was actually going to go to culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, then I gotta, like, be in a hot kitchen on all the holidays, and I think they work a lot of hours. No, but I ended up having an injury, and I talk about this in my book, and I think I might have spoke about this on, but I had a life experience happen where I actually ended up having this. I'm not sure where to even jump in on the story, but essentially I was working in this restaurant. I was a busboy. I was pouring water to a guest, and the guest said to me, hey, have you ever had that looked at? And I'm like, had what looked at? And my ear was, like, being pushed out. And I was a wrestler, never wore headgear, never thought anything of it, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, gave me his card. He's like, you should get that looked at. And my mother and I went and saw him. He was a plastic surgeon. He was like, I can't help you, but I know that doesn't look right, and you need to go find somebody and, have him help you. And I was like, well, who should we go see? They were like an ear, nose, and throat doctor. And we're like, well, do you recommend anybody? And he was like, no. So it wasn't even like, go see my friend, but
Right.
Just this angel. And it turns out I had this really severe thing called an AVM, an arteriovascular malformation, where it's like this accessory of blood vessels that, like, either if I got into an accident or I could have potentially died by the time I was 25.
Oh, wow.
And they discovered it, and blah, blah, blah. I did surgery, and I didn't wrestle this 1 year. And that's how I ended up spending the season in the athletic training room.
So this is where sports medicine comes in.
Sports medicine came in.
Got it.
And I really got into it. And then I ended up going to school for sports medicine. And then I went to Northeastern University, and I was driving home with one of my friends who was going to go to chiropractic school, which I'd never been to a chiropractor before. And he was like, oh, and then something, my intuition said, you should do, like you should explore that. And I went back to my town, Mount Holly, New Jersey. Never been, my dad's a pharmacist, never went to a chiropractor ever in my life. And I just walked into there was a chiropractic office in my town. I walked in and said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe going to school for chiropractic. Do you mind if I spend the day here? And I met Dr. Ronald Parente. Changed my life forever, one day.
Right. I love that.
And I was like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And he invited me to his home office. And I went to the library. This was before Google. And I went and I broke out a book and I looked at all the prerequisites. And I was like, wow, all the prereqs were done except for organic chemistry. And I went back to Northeastern and I took organic chemistry and went to chiropractic school and loved it. But the caveat to that story before was my mom, I said I grew up, not with very high expectations, that I was stupid, I had a learning disability. As soon as I went to college and took science classes,
it clicked.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I have a high affinity for the human body. And I liked it. Like it was interesting to me. And and what I thought was interesting was as I detached from my mother by going to college and becoming a doctor, she started manifesting more symptoms.
Oh. Huh.
I feel there was a level of projection with me growing up. And then as I was beginning to step into myself, I feel that she began to absorb her own.
Right. I get that. I can see that with mine too.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I was in kinesiology, and I used to have cut open cadavers, and I loved all that stuff too.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you've experienced cadavers.
Yeah, I have.
How so?
At Washington State University in my class, I cut open.
What were you studying?
Oh, exercise science.
Oh, what an interesting blessing it is to be able to study a dead human. How many people get a chance to look at a dead human?
I still can see it in my head. It's still, when I see people and I look, when I'm working out, or when I see muscle, I'm like, I remember seeing it inside. And one of the last days before we had a final, the sumo wrestler came in and they're like, he couldn't be fit into a body bag. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, you want to go see a sumo wrestler? And I'm like, oh yeah. But it became kind of, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had all the fat, all the adipose tissue.
Yeah.
What was the most interesting part of the body dissection that you saw that you remember?
I just think I was so fascinated by the muscles and how it connected. I remember it was easy for me to get good grades because it was so fascinating. I tell the girls too, when you say your mom said, what do you love? Because Paige is a sophomore going into her junior year. And, it's time to start thinking, like, what do you love? What ignites you? What makes you, get excited about things? And, as, raising kids these days, especially, I was always like, I changed my major so many times, and for her to like not leave and be like lost. But with your story, I want you to explain, like, when you met this guy, you walk in his office and you're like starting to live with this intention and focus and picking up the breadcrumbs and just taking action and knowing that it's you're feeling it in your soul, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now you start doing all this. We have to get to the vibe. I mean, we haven't even talked about
the vibe. I mean, these are the let's put it this way. I'm not sure how long we want to go with this, but what would you like for me to what part? Because I feel like when people ask me who I am, and I was like, oh, you're a chiropractor, you're a sonic acupuncturist, all these things. Number one thing I say is I'm a futurist. And I didn't realize that I was a futurist until the future caught up to my present, and I look back on my life like, wow, I live in the future.
Oh yes, exactly. You do.
Yeah. And
You're
I
a
didn't know anything
futurist.
about healing. I never, but I'm a gifted healer, but I never even considered the fact that I was a gifted healer until I really fell into going to chiropractic school. And then, I started dating these girls. They were like, oh, like, can I try this and that? It's like Hogwarts, like, okay, but then I had like a spiritual awakening. And next thing you know, I meditated for the first time and I astral traveled for the first time. Like I didn't know about any of these things. I started having these miraculous healings that happened. And I'm not going to get details, but these are all things that happened when I was in chiropractic school. And then early on in my career, when I moved to Colorado, and next thing you know, it shifted me into working with bioresonant technology. But my intuition said, yes. That's all I was hearing was yes, yes, yes. And I followed it. And then, listen, as a young man, I think this is the plight of being able to follow the yeses, because we want to do we want some of these no's to be yeses.
Right.
Just whatever that may be. You really want, but you're not calibrated. So you start going down these no roads. And maybe there are really no roads. Maybe all no roads are yes roads.
Right.
Because it's all the journey.
Exactly. That's what I believe. But
Yeah.
yes, I love that.
So I appreciate that, but I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm trying to, just live by these doctrines that I've set up. And this is one of my core things that I teach people is how to set up doctrines. And what are the people's doctrines? What are the core things that you are non-negotiable in your life that you can set up and you can always go back? So in the moment of chaos, you don't know what to do. What are your doctrines? And that's going to take you, because what will happen is your universe will take you where you want to go if you follow your rules. Like, oh, well, what rules? Whatever rules you want. They're your rules.
Right.
I'm not a rule follower, but I follow my rules.
Yeah. What is your doctrine?
Okay, so one of my doctrines is that I don't sit in traffic, and I don't wait in lines, and that I always get like VIP access. Like I don't buy tickets. Like people always give me like tickets to things. I'm always invited to like these events. Usually I don't have to buy tickets for stuff. Also that I follow yeses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't chase no's. And that I follow my intuition imperatively. And that it totally works if my intuition says no, that's a no, regardless of what the person is asking me why, and I have no idea it is. So
what does your intuition sound like? What are you, when you say I follow my intuition, you're just like, okay, do I go to right or do I left? Yeah, right. Like, what do you?
It's a knowing.
It's a knowing.
For me, for you, you might get like a sensation.
Right.
You might get like a sound. You might get a vision. You might see the future over there. Like it depends if you're like what, clairaudient, clairsentient, right. All these different things. It's different for everybody. For me, it's just there's just something that it's just a knowing that I get. And so I want to go back to, they're kind of fun about like, oh, I don't wait in line and I don't sit in traffic. And you're like, oh, that's cute. And I'm in LA.
I know. I was like, how do you not sit in traffic? Do you just get over and get off the exit?
Listen, I would be lying if I said that I never sit in traffic in SoCal. But I can also tell you that I usually just, if you're in flow, you're in flow.
Mm-hmm.
There might be gridlock traffic on one side of the street and no traffic on the other side, and I'm cruising.
Right.
Or you look at your GPS and it's red, but next thing you know, traffic's moving.
Right. I love doing that. I'm a big, I drive up to Orange County all the time and I put my thing on, right through like Camp Pendleton. It's always like red.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, girls, let's make it blue. Let's just make it blue. We visualize it blue. I'm like, we're going to slide through that. We're going to get home. And here we go.
Boom.
Boom.
You know what? I think what's so interesting too is once you really set that up, like, hey, I don't sit in traffic. So when traffic does show up, you have to go in and ask, like, why am I sitting in traffic?
Yes. I love that.
Where's the dissonance?
Right.
And maybe because where are you going? Where were you just? Who's the conversation you're having? Like what what is the universe trying to communicate to you?
Yeah. What thoughts are you thinking? What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I had a really interesting experience actually with that today, because I was cruising. I was totally I was cruising into Venice, and there's a girl that I've been seeing on and off, and anyhow, she sent me this text, and I wonder if she's going to watch this podcast. She may. Because we really love each other. So if she does watch, no names, but just yeah, we really love each other, and we have that. But it was interesting. This was an observation that I made. I was totally cruising. As soon as she called, boom, I hit traffic.
Oh, funny.
And then I was like, I just observed. I was like, wait, I'm in traffic. Like I was in no traffic, and I'm in. So then I started saying, like, okay, so like, what does that mean? For this, this energy. But is it an energy between it? Is it trying to say like we're not supposed to be together? Like like what is it? But all I know is that I was no traffic to like, and I wasn't like it slowed down, and then we moved through, and there we are, and we actually ended up, and we had a really pleasant, beautiful exchange.
Oh, good.
So another one that is about not waiting in line. That's a huge one. So once you start lining up, you can start being like, where am I supposed to go? Well, if there's a line out the door, you're probably, the universe is like, don't go here, go here. Because there's no line over there. Oh, well, all the good food is over here. Well, I'm going to go over there. I'm not waiting in that line.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, what magical experience? Who am I going to sit next to? Who's going to be next to me? What's going to be my experience? What phone, like what's going to happen? I don't know. But the universe is like, okay, your doctrine is no line. So here's a line. So are you going to follow your doctrine or not? And let the magic happen.
Right. I love doing that. We were just at Disneyland last week, and I would do that same thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't stand in lines either. And it's so hard for me to go on a busy day. It's hot. And like, the girls are older now. I used to go in there little and try to figure out the shortest line, but that you say that, because I do have intentions. I haven't talked about it being a doctrine, but it is the traffic and it is the lines, because I know that if it's long, I don't even go there. We go to the next one. I don't even think twice, but then I know we find the magic in that. And it's just like, I show the girls like, see, this is why that line was too long. Look what we just did. It was amazing. It was like that all day. And it was so fun. I love doing that.
We weren't having people in line. Oh, another one of my doctrines is I only do business with people that I vibe with.
And how do you know? What do you just know? It's a knowing.
Well, what do you mean? Okay. Okay. So, here's your podcast. Okay. You have like 119 episodes. That's awesome, by the way. 119. So who's your favorite podcaster? Who's your like idol podcaster?
Who do I look up to as a
you're like, oh my God, like I wish I was like that person.
I mean, I love Jay Shetty. I don't know, like someone that can get that guest. I love what's his name? Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, Jay Shetty. Sure. Okay, so another one. I don't know if you want to put this name out, but do you have like people? I'm sure you listen to podcasts that you're kind of like, like I can't believe they're popular. Like like.
Oh, right, yeah. So sometimes it's hard for me to listen. Yeah.
No names, just in case people watch this. But essentially, like, what if Jay Shetty's like, you know what, Ashley, love you. I want to buy your podcast.
Okay.
And you guys are vibing, right?
Right.
But okay, what if you end up meeting him and you guys actually don't really vibe?
I can't do it.
Well, you may, but then we're like, what do you create? Like your friends are like, and this is a totally theoretical thing, but he's going to offer you all this money. And then, so you're like, dude, just take the money, and maybe it's just a transaction. It's over. Who cares? Maybe you have no relationship, but maybe he's like, oh, I want to be your co-host on it. We're going to do it together. And I'm going to introduce you to my huge circle. And you're going to be like the next person. Like, oh my God, it's such a big opportunity. But then as you guys get to like know each other, like you guys aren't really vibing, but it's a great opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Continue.
So my doctrine for me is I only do business with people that I vibe with.
So you
So
would just say, sorry, Jay, can't do
I
it.
mean, let's put it this way: every opportunity that I've had so far, that I've taken opportunities with people that I haven't vibed with, they haven't worked out.
Right.
So I just think to myself, like, let's just cut to the chase.
Right.
Like what? Okay, so here it is. Okay, so you and Jay Shetty, you guys are co-hosting, and you got millions of followers. You're spreading all around the world. You got all your visions of dreams of sponsors and this and that. But dude, and then you're doing your podcast like what, every day or whatever, and you're doing with him, but you guys can't stand each other.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
no, that's not worth life. You can't live
this
like
is my
that.
point. But you got all the things.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be awesome? Now, the opposite of that is maybe you guys, it just doesn't work out because you don't vibe. The energy is that you don't vibe. And then, and then you start beating yourself up, this about this or that, why it didn't work out or whatever. But I think like if you end up aligning yourself with people that you vibe with, then only good things happen.
I
At
agree.
least so that's one of my it might not be your doctrine, but it's my doctrine.
No, it is mine. I can't. You ask the girls, I'm like, you know what? You got to know that when I can connect with someone, I'll know instantly that energy. And it's not good or bad. I just know that doesn't work with me. I can't, that's not my vibe. I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. And it's
Right.
like, they're not in my tribe.
Well, and that a lot of people don't know that doctrine.
Right. Oh, yes. Many, many.
Yeah. So it seems obvious, maybe to you or to me, but this is where I believe this is where you know chronic. This is where chronic conditions come from. This is where
Hmm.
cancers come from. Hey, you got this great life. You're in this crappy relationship. You got you got all the things. Like nobody just gets cancer. Oh, there you guys were perfect together. You have all these things. What's going on in their head? What's going on in their bodies? What's going on with their interpersonal relationships that generated that cancer in their body?
Right.
It's not. If you get cancer, you're not in a harmonic resonance with something.
Right. I
Nobody
believe
gets
it.
cancer if you're in harmonic resonance with the universe.
Yes. I want to talk about harmonic resonance and your vibe, your
Okay.
vibe bed, and how it came to about. I want you to, I mean, this is kind of has to be, I know we've been in an hour, but I hope, is it okay if we go a little bit longer?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is like the,
Let's ask. We got to ask your community. Hey, community, show me a 1 if it's a yes, or 2 if it's a no. If you want to end the podcast. Let's
it's a
see.
one.
Okay, it's a 1. Okay, great. Well, then we're going to continue.
Majority.
So, I mean, it's very simply put. I came to a point. My background as a chiropractor. I really was heavy into sports medicine. Then I ended up getting involved with working with chronic degenerative conditions like allergies, autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, learning disabilities, neurodegenerative conditions, everything that was just like chronic pain, every depression, anxiety, spectrum disorders. I mean, anything that really people couldn't get better, people would come see me. And I used all vibrational techniques and technologies since 2000 in Colorado. Amazing results. If you go to my YouTube channel, Bioharmonic Technologies, go to Dr. Schwartz Vintage Videos. I have like 100 videos of like patient testimonies. If you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I
But
did do that.
basically, oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I loved it. I loved everything about you. It's like, I told you,
I
it
think
makes,
that
I want to get a vibe bed.
let's do
Uh,
it.
I want to get all of your stuff and open up a healing center. That's what I got from everything.
Well, here's where it goes. Very simply, change your vibe, change your life.
Right. But talk about the water and the cells,
Okay.
and
So
people
so so
don't get
getting
that.
so getting into the details. Basically, we ended up as a doctor with these things. I really got heavily into the research because instead of all the woo woo esoteric stuff, I said to myself, you know what? I'm not this like gifted, Dr. Schwartz. Just go come kneel in front of Dr. Schwartz and he's going to get you better. No, I was like, there's science. I'm just literally tapping into a science of human physiology and I was fascinated by it. And so I looked into everything energy. I looked into quantum physics, subconscious mind reprogramming. I looked into immunology. I looked into working with pathogens and microbacteria. And I looked into numerology, channeling, astrology, all the stuff,
Right.
because energy is energy. And we were getting these amazing results. And basically in 2007, I was opening up a large center, and I said to myself, you know what, I can't be, it's not the Dr. Schwartz show anymore. Like, I'm bringing in associates. I need something that's a little more reproducible. I had all these little energy vials that I put into people's energy fields. I would push down on their arm, do like a muscle test, reprogram their body. And if you're not familiar with that, send me a message.
I think
Essentially, we are organic computers. And just the same as you can go and plug into your Mac computer, you can plug into your body computer and reprogram errors in the nervous system and immune system. And so I started developing biofeedback systems, and also I started experimenting with music. And it was just an intuitive. I used music. That's why I said to myself, what if I use music? Who do I know has a recording studio? Oh, my friend Chris Lawhead has a recording studio. Hey, do you have any health issues? Hey, I just started dating this girl that has 3 cats, and I'm deathly allergic to cats. Wow, it's amazing. My number one therapy at that time was eliminating cat allergies using these little energy vials. And it was super consistent. I had a box of cat allergy vials.
Oh, cool.
I said, what if I go in the recording studio and made audio files out of these energy vials? Total experiment. Totally eliminated his cat allergy in 2007. He's now married to this woman, and they live with, I don't know if the cats are still alive. This was in 2007. But yeah, happily married. They got kids, all the things. And Chris and I recorded my first 2 albums together. And that was the beginning of my music, of my company, Bioharmonic Technologies.
Got
And I
it.
said, wow, I can imprint frequencies into contemporary music and change physiology. Noted, check. What if I created a biofeedback system that could plug into people and put frequencies in? And I created that as well too, as a prototype. Moving forward, 2010, I developed like a full-size biofeedback system. And then in 2009, I had an intuitive download that I was supposed to make this bed, instead of just hearing music through headphones or through a speaker that's influencing our energy field, that I was supposed to have a delivery system that would vibrate frequencies into our connective tissue. And that information came through clearing cellular memory that I did on an ayahuasca journey back in 2004.
Huh.
Actually, at this point, I probably had done like maybe 3 or 4 trips to Peru.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 trips to Peru. So I already had gotten these downloads. And then I got fascinated with the study of cellular memory. And essentially, the abbreviated version of that is, what's cellular memory? Our waters are cells, and it's surrounded by a matrix, a vibrational matrix of connective tissue that consists of 3 fundamental physiological materials: microfilaments, microtubules, intermediate tubules. You know me talk about these all the time. It's in my book. It's paramount. Nobody knows what they do. They do one very specific thing. They respond to their environment using vibrational resonance. So basically, you change the environment, it creates chemistry. So if you're depressed, you're in a field of depression. If you put your cells into a field of happiness, happy chemistry shifts you.
So you put on the sound.
Yeah, might you need to do it more than once? Possibly.
Explain that. So they put on your the music.
So the vibe system, just to describe the vibe, we developed this system. It's called the vibe system. It stands for vibrational, individualized body enhancement system. It's a full body music activated vibrational bed that you lay on, and it has headphones. And my music company, Bioharmonic Technologies, has created something called Sonic Pseuticals. Sonic Pseuticals are specially designed musical programs with embedded frequencies that I have formulated, for including brainwave states, sacred geometry, mathematical ratios, physiological frequencies for different physiological effects. And then instead of it just through headphones, it literally vibrates your entire body at the connective tissue level for clearing cellular memory and installing new physiological programs.
I love that.
And that's called the vibe. And there's very few technologies that are working with clearing cellular memory. In fact, I'm kind of one of the foremost leaders in that. I mean, there's no information. I mean, there's a little bit, but very little. Tons of information about the effects of sound. Harvard Medical School did all kinds of studies on the effects of sound therapy, and it's all positive. There's a whole area of what they call vibroacoustic research on specific frequencies for different physiological effects. Lots of stuff with chronic pain, lots of stuff with like autistic disorder things, neurodegenerative Parkinson's syndromes, lots of frequencies showing that. And all those frequencies I've incorporated into music, the sonic-ceutical music for the Vibe system.
What give me some kind of a testimony of somebody that besides the cat allergy. Give me a cool story.
I don't know. I feel like I hear these things like all the time, and then they kind of gloss over. I mean, there's a person being right now they're being treated for Parkinson's, and they've been listening to therapy. I think they've done like maybe 15 sessions, and their numbers are reduced. I don't even know if that's even that profound. I think really if you go to our YouTube channel, we have this, not a YouTube channel, if you just go to our website, we have videos of 21 of our typical testimonials on there of people that just what they're saying about their experiences.
Yeah, it's cool.
What happens when people get on the Vibe? It's like a 3-minute video, but there's all kinds of stuff. Like there was a woman that had this like auto accident, and I put her on the Vibe for like 5 minutes, and all of her pain was gone. Like there was another woman, people just are like depressed. Next, that they're not. People are getting downloads of different feelings in their bodies, that they didn't have before. It takes people from a place of kind of feeling trapped to a place of feeling liberated.
How often do you do it?
There's a lot of different implications of this technology, but okay, one just came to mind.
Okay.
This is actually a really fascinating story. Many years ago, I was living in San Diego, and there was a gentleman. They wanted to put my music on their online music platform. They didn't know anything about the Vibe, about my music, and so I didn't know these guys. Put one of the guys on, and I'm in the other room in my office talking to the other gentleman. After 5 minutes, this guy comes in. He's like kind of shaking his head. I'm like, how you feeling? And he tells me, he goes, listen, he goes, I'm a disabled veteran. He goes, he's a 10 out of 10 disabled veteran with PTSD. I didn't know anything about this. And he said that he's been discharged for 7 years with complete 100% disability with PTSD. And he said there's not a moment of his day that goes by that he does not think about killing somebody.
Huh.
Which is super scary, because I think about how many people are running around on the street that are discharged medically that want to just like people like
Right.
that are civilians. Think about like what does it take to look somebody wrong or to say something with somebody on the street? Next thing you know, they're like, who knows what happens, right?
Right.
It's scary. Especially living down in San Diego, there's a whole military population down there,
Right.
Okay, you're released. Anyhow, I put him on the Vibe, listen to energy clearing, 5 minutes. He said it was the first time since he was discharged that he did not have thoughts of wanting to kill somebody.
Wow. That's a great story.
And I said, let's put you back on the Vibe.
Right.
Yeah. And we get a lot of those responses from veterans. There's a woman in Colorado Springs. She's actually doing an opening right now. I'm really excited for her. She had like no money, actually couldn't really afford this, but saw something online and was like, wow, like I feel really called to have this. Single mom, 2 kids, 2 autistic children. It was like, I need to buy this. Qualified for our financing program. And purchased this Vibe. We were actually on back order during like COVID, and for like a couple of months, so she really didn't even have the Vibe to make any money with, and she was gonna like cancel order. I went to this Joe Dispenza thing actually in Colorado, met her and her kids, put her on the Vibe. She bought it sight unseen.
Huh.
It was an incredible experience. She's like, I want the Vibe. And she started a company treating autistic people with the vibe.
Oh, cool.
And now she just opened up her second office. They're billing insurance
Oh, wow. That's
with the
amazing.
vibe. Yeah. And she's making, and she had like no, she like was making no money. Now she's making like a lot of money
Oh, cool.
treating, and people are getting amazing results. So
Neat.
it's one thing about the two things that happened there. One, she got a vibe that helped change her life. And B, she's offering it to people, it's changing their life.
Wow. I love
And
that.
financial freedom is really important because it's a
Right.
dimension, it's a different dimension.
What's it? What do you mean a different dimension?
Okay. Real quick, dimensional reality. We live in a world of infinite dimension reality. What's the definition of a dimension? A measurable space. Interdimensional portals, a space between two measurable spaces. What's a portal? A doorway or a gateway. Interdimensional portal is a doorway or gateway into a dimension, into a measurable space. Quantum physics says there's infinite dimensions.
Right.
Right now in this three-dimensional world, we are in this physical dimension. There's another dimension that exists where I don't even know. Something else is happening. Okay.
But
So
you've been there on your
it?
ayahuasca journeys?
Well, we all go there. So really in this dimensional reality, this woman, she was broke, single mom, no money, no job, no nothing. That's a dimension. She started getting on the vibe, setting her intentions and vibrating and aligning herself to a new dimensional reality. Now she is living in a new dimension where she has two businesses.
I love it.
And is making money and is billing insurance and providing these other things. That's a dimensional shift.
Yes, I get it. Love it.
And so that's why I say these vibes are interdimensional portals for your living space or workspace. People
Yes.
go in, they set their intention, they align themselves to a new dimensional reality of their choosing, change their vibe, change their life.
Wow, I love that way. So we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
But tell me what your future, what do you see for Dr. Vibe?
We are really committed, really kind of being here in Southern California. I'm super committed to creating the highest quality, most amazing vibrational interdimensional portals in the world, and attracting the most amazing people that are wanting to bring these interdimensional portals into their living space, into their work environment, because I know that every vibe that's placed on this planet raises the vibration of the planet and helps people ascend to a higher dimensional reality of their choosing.
Yes. And when you say choosing,
yeah,
because they have their intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now, there's a lot
You
of
can
people
have
running
anything.
around, they're living in a dimension not of their choosing. They're
Right.
living in the dimensional reality of the government. They're living in the dimension of Los Angeles. They're living in the dimension of like $6 gas. They're living in the dimension of like living with this crappy significant other that they can't stand. They're living in a crappy job. But it's all being forced upon them.
Yeah.
What if they could? So what do they want? What do you want?
Right.
I want a loving spouse. Great. Lay down on the vibe. Let's clear your bucket. Let's bring in new vibration. Let's clear the emotions. Let's reduce the inflammation. I would love to live a life where I'm not in pain. Amazing. Lay on the vibe. Let's do that. I would love to be more creative. Great. We have a program for that. I'm envisioning opening up this new clinic. Great. We have a program for that. Lay on the vibe and set your intention and let the technology not entrain your brain, but entrain every tissue, system, cell in your connective tissue and raise your vibration and align to a new dimensional reality of your choosing.
I love it.
This is the time in history for us to proclaim ourselves as the true magicians that we know that we are.
Yes. I love it.
These are the magic carpets.
Oh, yes. Have you ever said that before?
I have. And
okay.
well, I
love
think
that.
a little bit. In my book, I talk about the genie's lamp phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
3 components to genie's lamp phenomenon: the genie, the lamp, and you got to rub the lamp for the 3 wishes, right?
Right.
What's the genie? Your intention. What's the lamp? Your vessel, your body. But just because you have the body and the intention, unless you rub it, you don't get the wishes.
Right.
How do you rub it? You can dance, you can do yoga, you can do all these things. or you can lay on the vibe at the cellular level with your intention and activate your genie in your vessel and manifest something magical.
Ah, love it. Thank you. You're amazing. I'm so happy I met you. I know there's more in our life together. That is what
You
I
as well,
see.
Ashley.
You what?
I said you as well.
Oh,
I really wish we could have connected while I was in San Diego, but
I know that would
ain't what
have,
happened.
you'll be back.
Yeah, my company's based out of Southern California, so in San Diego. So yeah, and I've been wanting to kind of spend more time here over the summer, really get our company dialed in next level. We're a small company, we're growing. Really, our people, if they want to support this company, buy a vibe, change your vibe, change your life. It supports their company, it supports you, it supports your community. It's a win-win-win. Also, we have an app called Vibrophile, Vibrophle, and it's in all of the app stores. You can download it and sign up for a pro subscription or a plus subscription and get full access to all of our music and protocols. And you can listen to the music that way as well too.
Oh, cool.
And then if you're interested in reading more about Dr. Vibe, I invite you to pick up a copy of my book on Amazon or through my website called Primal Resonance. Discover the secrets to health, vitality, and optimal human performance. It'll change your life or your money back, guaranteed.
I love it. Dr. Vibe on Instagram.
Dr. Vibe on Instagram, Stephen Schwartz on Facebook, Bioharmonic Technologies on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, Bioharmonic Technologies. And then we're going to be putting together a end of the year bioharmonizing festival in Tulum. And we also have an online vibrational music production course that I offer as well too. So lots of ways.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
And yeah, we'd love to have you come vibe with us.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm coming to vibe with you. I'm going to get my own vibe and vibe on it every day.
Let's do it.
Can I vibe on it every day?
Sure. I mean, let's put it this way. You do everything every day. You eat every day. You shower every day. You brush your teeth every day. You also, I'm not saying you, but some people take drugs every day. Some people drink beers every day. Some people drink wine every day. People smoke every day. Why not lay in a field of harmonic resonance every day, coupled with your intention? How would that change your life?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. There's a lot of things you can do every day. Why not do this every day?
Do you have one, right? Do you lay on it every day when you can?
If I'm not traveling, I have a beautiful interdimensional portal space in my home in Tulum. I have one in my car. Actually, I have two vibes in my car because we're about to be set up tomorrow. Anybody that's in, this is probably gonna be after the fact, but we're doing something, Disclosure Fest in downtown Los Angeles. It's going to be a mass meditation at 2:00. I think it's 222. And we're going to have a vibe zone set up there, 2 vibes. And we're going to be doing a hydrate, vibrate, gyrate station where you drink structured ionized water and then vibrate coupled to your intention. And we're going to increase your cellular gyration.
Nice. I love it. Love everything about you. You're amazing.
Thank you, Ashley. You're reflections of each other.
Yes.
Thank you for the invitation to come on your magical podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule.
My pleasure. Thank you. Back to the line.
All right. Thank you.